Welcome to the channel, History Buffs and Armchair Generals. Today we're marching into the heart of ancient Germania, a land of dense forests, treacherous swamps and fierce warriors. Our destination? The epic clash between Germanicus, the golden son of Rome, and Arminius, the cunning chieftain who dared to defy an empire. Get ready, because the story of Germanicus and Arminius is a clash of titans, a struggle for survival and a turning point in history you won't want to miss. To truly grasp the magnitude of this conflict, we need to first understand the players on this ancient stage. The stakes were incredibly high, and the characters involved were nothing short of legendary. Germanicus, adopted grandson of the Emperor Tiberius, was the very embodiment of Roman military might. His presence on the battlefield was a morale booster for his troops. He was a charismatic leader, a skilled tactician, and a relentless pursuer of victory. His strategies were often studied and admired by his peers and successors. Think of him as the Roman version of Alexander the Great, young, ambitious, and seemingly destined for greatness. His name was synonymous with Roman valor and excellence. On the other side of the battlefield stood Arminius, a name whispered with a mix of fear and admiration by Romans. He was a figure shrouded in both mystery and respect. Born a prince of the Cherusci, a Germanic tribe, Arminius had been taken hostage by Rome as a child. This was a common practice to ensure the loyalty of conquered tribes. Imagine growing up in the very heart of your enemy's empire, learning their language, their tactics, their strengths and weaknesses. This unique upbringing gave him an unparalleled insight into Roman military operations. This experience would prove to be Rome's undoing. Arminius was not just any adversary, he was a master of Roman warfare. Arminius used his intimate knowledge of Roman warfare to devastating effect, transforming himself from a pawn in their game to their most dangerous adversary. His strategic mind was a formidable weapon. He understood the Roman mind, their reliance on discipline and rigid formations, which were both their greatest strength and their Achilles' heel, and he knew exactly how to exploit their weaknesses. His plans were meticulous and his execution was flawless. The stage for this epic confrontation was set in 9 AD in the depths of the Teutoburg forest. This dense, foreboding landscape would become the graveyard of Roman ambitions. 3 Roman legions, led by the arrogant Roman general Varus, were marching through this dense, unforgiving terrain. They believed themselves invincible, masters of all they surveyed. Their confidence was their downfall. But Arminius, now a chieftain himself, had other plans. He was ready to challenge the might of Rome. He had secretly forged an alliance between previously warring Germanic tribes, uniting them against their common enemy. This unity was unprecedented and gave them a fighting chance. What followed was a massacre. The ambush was perfectly executed. The Battle of Teutoburg Forest, a 3-day bloodbath, saw the complete annihilation of 3 Roman legions, a catastrophic event that would be remembered for centuries. A staggering loss that sent shockwaves through the Roman world. The empire was shaken to its core. The legion's standards, symbols of Roman power and pride, were captured, a humiliation that cut deep into the heart of Roman prestige. It was a blow from which they would struggle to recover. The Rhine River, once envisioned as a mere stepping stone in Rome's inexorable expansion, now represented a hard, bloody limit to their ambitions. The dream of conquering Germania was shattered, and the Rhine became the boundary of the Roman Empire. News of the disaster at Teutoburg Forest reached Rome like a thunderclap, shaking the very foundations of the empire and sending ripples of fear and outrage through its corridors of power. The loss of 3 legions, a devastating blow to their military might, and a stain upon their honor, demanded a response, a reckoning that would restore Rome's pride and power. Enter Germanicus, the young, ambitious general, eager to prove himself and avenge the humiliation inflicted upon Rome. He was not just any general, he was a man with a vision, a leader who understood the weight of history and the expectations of his people. In 14 AD, with the weight of Roman expectations on his shoulders, Germanicus led a retaliatory expedition across the Rhine. This was not merely a military campaign, it was a mission to reclaim Rome's lost honor. Imagine the scene, thousands upon thousands of Roman legionaries, their armor gleaming in the sun, their standards held high, a river of iron and steel flowing into the heart of Germania. The sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, a testament to Rome's enduring might. His first target, the Marsi, a Germanic tribe who had joined Arminius in the uprising. They were fierce warriors, but Germanicus was determined to show them the might of Rome. Germanicus, a student of history and a master tactician, had learned from Varus's mistakes. He meticulously planned his strategies, ensuring that every move was calculated and precise. He wouldn't underestimate the cunning or the ferocity of his enemy. He knew that the Germanic tribes were not to be taken lightly, and he prepared his men for the brutal combat that lay ahead. He knew the terrain, the fighting style of the Germanic tribes, and he would use that knowledge to his advantage. The dense forests and rugged landscapes of Germania were no longer unfamiliar territory. The Roman legions, fueled by vengeance and led by a general determined to restore their tarnished glory, were a force of nature. Their discipline and training made them a formidable opponent. The Marsi, caught off guard by the speed and ferocity of the Roman assault, were routed. They had underestimated the resolve and the power of the Roman legions. Their villages were burned, their crops destroyed, a brutal reminder of the price of defying Rome. The message was clear. Rome would not tolerate insurrection. But this was just the beginning. Germanicus's campaign was far from over, and he was determined to press on, deeper into enemy territory. Germanicus, driven by a desire to not just conquer but to utterly crush any further resistance, pressed his advantage. He was relentless, pushing his men to their limits. He led his legions deep into Germania, engaging in a series of lightning-fast campaigns, each victory a hammer blow against the fragile alliance Arminius had forged. His tactics were swift and brutal, leaving no room for the enemy to regroup. One of his most audacious moves was the recovery of 2 of the 3 legions' eagles lost at Teutoburg Forest. This was more than a symbolic victory. It was a powerful statement that Rome's spirit was unbroken and its resolve unyielding. The recovery of the legionary eagles was a huge morale booster for the Romans and a symbolic blow to Arminius's prestige. These eagles, once lost in the disastrous Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, were more than just military standards. They were the embodiment of Roman honor and pride. It was a clear message. Rome may have been bloodied, but they were far from beaten. The soldiers, with renewed vigor, prepared for the upcoming confrontation, their spirits lifted by the return of their sacred symbols. They were back, and they were hungry for vengeance. The legions, hardened by previous battles, were now more determined than ever to reclaim their lost honor and territory. Sensing the tide turning, Arminius, ever the strategist, knew he couldn't defeat the Romans in a straight fight. He understood that the Roman legions, with their discipline and training, would be formidable opponents in open combat. He needed to lure them deeper into Germania, to a place where the terrain itself would become his ally. The dense forests and rugged terrain of Germania were perfect for guerrilla tactics and ambushes, and so he chose his battleground carefully, a valley near the Verza River, a place known as the Battle of Idistaviso. This location, with its natural defences and strategic advantages, was ideal for his plans. The year was 16 AD. The stage was set for one of the most significant confrontations in the Roman-Germanic Wars. Germanicus, lured by the prospect of a decisive victory, marched his legions into the valley. The trap was sprung. The Romans, confident in their strength, advanced into the narrow confines of the valley. As the Romans advanced, they were met with a storm of spears, javelins, and axes hurled from the surrounding hills. The sudden and ferocious attack caught them off guard. The Germanic warriors, hidden amongst the trees and familiar with every inch of the terrain, rained down death upon the Roman ranks. Their intimate knowledge of the landscape gave them a significant advantage. The legions, caught off guard but disciplined as ever, formed their famous testudo formation, their shields interlocked, protecting them from the deadly hail of projectiles. This formation, though effective, was not invincible, but Arminius had anticipated this. He knew the Romans would rely on their disciplined formations to withstand the initial onslaught. He unleashed wave after wave of his warriors, charging down the slopes, attempting to break the Roman lines. The relentless attacks tested the limits of Roman endurance and discipline. The fighting was brutal, hand to hand, a desperate struggle for survival on both sides. The clash of swords, the cries of the wounded, and the sheer chaos of battle filled the air. Just when it seemed the Germanic warriors might overwhelm the Roman lines, Germanicus unleashed his secret weapon, his cavalry. The mounted troops, with their speed and mobility, charged into the fray. The tide of the battle began to turn. The cavalry's intervention provided the much-needed breakthrough, allowing the Roman legions to regroup and counterattack with renewed vigor. The Battle of Idistaviso was a resounding Roman victory. Arminius, though wounded, managed to escape with the remnants of his forces, but his aura of invincibility had been shattered. The Germanic alliance, weakened and demoralized, began to crumble. Germanicus had achieved what he had set out to do: avenge the defeat at Teutoburg Forest and reassert Roman dominance. He had proven himself a brilliant commander, a worthy successor to Julius Caesar, and his name was etched into the annals of Roman military history. But this victory, as decisive as it was, came at a heavy cost. The legions had suffered significant casualties, a stark reminder of the ferocity of the Germanic warriors and the unforgiving nature of the terrain. Even in victory, Germanicus had learned a valuable lesson. Germania was a land best left unconquered. His campaigns had demonstrated the limits of Roman power, the folly of trying to subdue a people as fiercely independent as the Germanic tribes. And so in 17 AD, Germanicus, recalled to Rome by a wary Emperor Tiberius, made the fateful decision to withdraw his legions back across the Rhine. He left Germania not as a conqueror, but as a general who had stared into the abyss of endless war and had the wisdom to step back. His departure marked the end of Rome's ambitions for large-scale conquest in Germania. Arminius, the cunning warrior who had united his people against an empire, had tasted both victory and defeat. He had proven that even the mighty Roman legions could be defeated, that their aura of invincibility was just an illusion. His name would become a legend, a symbol of Germanic resistance against Roman domination. But his victory was a double-edged sword. While he had successfully repelled the Romans, he had also sown the seeds of discord amongst his own people. The fragile alliance he had forged began to unravel after the Roman threat receded. In a tragic twist of fate, Arminius, the liberator of his people, was eventually assassinated by his own kinsman, a victim of the very divisions he had sought to overcome. He died a hero to his people, but also a casualty of the very conflict he had come to embody. The legacy of Germanicus and Arminius resonates through the centuries, a testament to the enduring power of courage, ambition, and the clash of civilizations. Their story is a reminder that even the greatest empires are not invincible, that even the most crushing defeats can inspire future generations to fight for their freedom. That's it for today's journey into the heart of ancient history and its mysteries. If you enjoyed this epic tale of ambition, betrayal, and battles that changed the course of history, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories from the past, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep exploring the past, keep asking questions, and keep the spirit of history alive and thriving.